अस्सलाम वालेकुम, welcome to Sunday Brunch with Lubna. एक बार फिर मैं हाजिर हूँ आप लोगों के साथ. Thank you so much for being a part of TV1. We know you have plenty of choices and you choose TV1, so thanks again. And I know it's a beautiful Sunday afternoon right here in Houston. और दूसरे शहरों में भी बहुत ही अच्छे आप लोगों के दिन गुजर रहे होंगे. So I know you start off your afternoons with us. आप लोगों को बताना था तो आज लोग पहली बार देख रहे हैं शो पे क्या होता है. I invite those people who have made some positive changes in our community. People who are doing some amazing things, people you already know about. आप शायद जानते होंगे इनके बारे में, लेकिन मैं अपने शो पे उनको लेके आती हूँ, इंटरव्यू करती हूँ, उनके बारे में बताती हूँ आपको. और उसके साथ साथ आप लोग भी सवाल कर सकते हैं और मैं टॉपिक तो लेके आती हूँ. जब लुबना है तो टॉपिक तो होगा. बिफोर आई इंट्रोड्यूस आज के गेस्ट को मैं इंट्रोड्यूस करूँ आप लोगों के साथ, आई डू वांट टू से थैंक यू फॉर ऑल ऑफ यू लाइकिंग माई लास्ट वीक शो विच वॉज ऑन मदर्स डे. और जिन लोगों ने मिस कर दिया आप जाके देख सकते हैं TV1 ग्लोबल की वेबसाइट पे. एंड दैट शो वाज वेरी डिफरेंट इन द सेंस कि हम मदर्स डे की बात कर रहे थे, माँ की अहमियत की बात कर रहे थे, माँ क्या चीज़ है और जो चीज़ें माँ से नहीं कनेक्शन नहीं रहता है या नाराज़गियाँ रहती हैं उन सब पे हमने बात की थी. वी हैड 3 डिफरेंट पीपल ऑन द शो. वन वाज ए मॉम ऑफ 2 यंग चिल्ड्रन. उसके बाद हमारे जो दूसरे गेस्ट थे लास्ट वीक के, ही इज़ अ डैड ऑफ 2 kids. And our third guest, she gave a lot of advice. और उन्होंने she is a grandmother herself. तो हमने बहुत अच्छा रिस्पॉन्स आया लास्ट वीक शो का. इस वक्त आप स्क्रीन पे हमारा नंबर भी देख रहे हैं और आप कॉल इन कर सकते हैं. हमारा नंबर है 855-886-6387 एक्सटेंशन 4. आप कॉल करके अपना सवाल पूछ सकते हैं, कोई कमेंट दे सकते हैं. And you also see an email address on the screen. You can email us too. Anyway, ये थोड़ा सा मैंने बताना था आप लोगों को. और एक बार फिर thank you for the great love and support you have given my show. It really means a lot to me. And next Sunday मुझे 2 साल हो जाएंगे TV1 पे काम करते हुए. It's just wonderful being a part of it. इस वक्त TV1 देखा जा रहा है पूरे US में और पूरे कनाडा के अंदर. तो बातें तो मैं करती रहूँगी, भूल जाती हूँ कि गेस्ट को भी मिलाना है. हमारे आज के जो गेस्ट हैं, 2 wonderful people. The first guest is Jani Ali Rizvi, who is a board member of the Dil Foundation and also a certified financial planner. Good afternoon. क्या हाल है? How are you?
ठीक ठाक हूँ मैं. Thank you so much for having me today.
No problem. And it must be, I know you guys have an event to go to after this, so thank you for coming out.
And that's right. Thank you.
And we'll talk to you in just a few minutes. और जो हमारी दूसरी guest है, वो हैं Dr. Nilofer Ahmed, who has been the past president twice for the Dil Foundation and also who is a radiation oncologist. Assalamu alaikum, Nilofer. How are you today?
Walaikum salam. I'm fine. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming out. All right, and I have a lot of questions to ask you too. Johnny, we'll start off with you.
Sure.
I know you're a financial planner.
That's right.
And you know, people watching are probably thinking how they can do that. The first question is, what is a financial planner?
Thank you for the question. I appreciate that. A financial planner is somebody who works with families to help them accomplish their most important financial goals. For example, how much money does a client need to have to be ready for retirement?
Right.
What accounts do those funds need to be in?
Exactly.
How can they make sure their kids have enough money to go to college or a major purchase or any of their goals that are coming up?
Right.
A financial planner is a professional who will help accomplish those goals in the most efficient way to make sure the wealth is growing in a way that's in line with the client's values, but also make sure that they're saving money on taxes and that there's an ongoing relationship to make sure we stay on track for the goals that we plan.
Right.
It's a very important role.
Right. मतलब आपसे एक और a very important question. A lot of people in our community, हमारी community जो देख रहे हैं, बहुत दफ़ा सेव नहीं करते हैं पैसे retirement के लिए. और क्या होता है कि retirement, a lot of people, और retirement का वक्त आ जाता है and where you're like, you know what, हमने पैसे क्यों नहीं सेव किए? ये सारे पैसा बच्चों में लगा देते हैं.
जी.
And I'm going to ask you straight out, and I know a lot of people must be like, why did I ask this? Is it a good idea, and you're a financial planner yourself, कि सारा पैसा बच्चों पर लगा दें, अपने लिए कुछ ना सेव करें?
अच्छा, अब देखिए, अब बच्चों के लिए लोन भी मिल सकती है, लेकिन retirement के लिए लोन नहीं मिल सकती है ना. It's important to do both. I mean, so as someone who works with many families, I can tell you that everyone cares about their children and they want their children to have a great opportunity. And especially in our community, a lot of our parents come from outside of the United States. They want to give us everything that they never had. And the intentions are so good there. What I try to tell clients is it's very important to make sure you have the appropriate balance. Because if you're not taking care of the future and just worried about today, that's a disservice to those children, right?
It is a very big disservice.
Something bad could happen there. So I think that if a professional is able to sit down with families and determine what is the right amount that they can save, and where should those savings be directed that's in line with their values and their goals, it provides a very, very effective solution, and clients for life appreciate what we're doing if they're able to accomplish those goals and track them effectively.
Of course, and like you said, that we're so worried about what we're going to do today with the money.
Yeah.
We don't put that for later on. And and a badi अच्छी बात की which I want to talk about is that we think about all the money that's spent for the school, let's do it for right now. But what about later on? What about when you're at a certain age?
That's right.
And again, nothing against our community. We also have this thing, बच्चे take care करेंगे हमारे. The kids will take care of us. So I think it's kind of important to sit down with them. And not just with you. I'm just saying, even if you choose someone, you should really plan out your future. It's a very, at that time I'd be like, क्यों हम time waste कर रहे हैं? क्या फायदा है? But I think in the long term, it's going to help out.
Yeah, that, and I'll tell you that whenever the children of a client find out that they're working with me or working with a professional, they're very happy about it because they know that their parents are going to be okay. In our community especially, how often is it that the kids have no idea what's going on with mom and dad? Are they going to be okay? Are they not going to be okay? Are they doing this wisely or are they not doing it wisely? If, as a son, I can tell you that it gives a lot of happiness and confidence that your parents have a plan, that they're sticking to it, and that they're going to be okay. And I think that would be the same way with everyone else.
And I think, again, and it's not just the sense of the children having that peace of mind, but I think if the parents have that peace of mind, I think they can function a lot calmer, I think, or they could be more like relaxed. Because the problem many times people have is, what we'll be in the middle of the ocean, be like, where do we go? What should we do? And that's why I think a lot of problems happen. A lot of, I think, where there's the financial independence, I think that makes a world of a difference too.
It does. And I'll tell you, sometimes people think that financial planning is for very wealthy people. And that's really not true. Every single person can benefit from a plan.
A plan, right.
Everyone has their own means and their own lifestyle that they need to be in. And so if you have a good plan of what you have to be doing today, it's not a mystery what's going to happen in the future. You know what your retirement's going to look like. You know what education's going to look like for your kids. And you know what you're able to do. And it also means that you know what you're not able to do. It helps people make intelligent choices now because they'll know what they can and cannot do. And that's very important.
Of course, definitely. And we'll talk more with you too. And now, Dr. Neelafar, I know you're a radiation oncologist. What is a radiation oncologist? A lot of people must be wondering.
That's a very good question. So a radiation oncologist is a physician who specializes in the use of radiation therapy in the treatment of cancer, or primarily in the treatment of cancer. There are a few selected things that are not cancer in which radiation can be beneficial as well, but 99% of what we do is cancer. And what is radiation therapy? Radiation therapy is the use of X-rays or gamma rays. X-rays are generated electronically. Gamma rays are generated by decay of a radioactive material. But in either case, they're X-rays that can disrupt and kill cancer cells. And so that's what my specialty is, and how to use radiation treatment to kill cancer. Practically speaking, what that means is that most patients who receive radiation therapy get a treatment where they lie down on a table and a machine moves around them and treats them with X-rays from the outside. So it's just like going to get a chest X-ray, except that the X-rays are much more powerful and they're focused very precisely on the area that needs to be treated.
Of course. So what's the difference between a radiation oncologist and a medical oncologist?
Okay, that's another great question, because there's a lot of confusion out there when patients come to be seen. So a medical oncologist is a physician who specializes in treating cancer with either chemotherapy, hormonal therapy, or a biologic agent. So it's medical therapy. It's either pills that a patient has to take or a drug that has to be given by IV. Nowadays, there's a huge explosion of different kinds of treatment options. So it used to be that there were two main ways we could do.
Dr. Neelafar, I'm going to ask you, complete that question in just a minute, but we have a caller right now. We have Dr. Khwaja on the line. Assalamu alaikum. You're on air.
जी अस्सलाम वालेकुम। मैं आपका प्रोग्राम देख रहा हूँ, बड़ा अच्छा प्रोग्राम है, बहुत अच्छा टॉपिक। मेरा क्वेश्चन है फाइनेंशियल एडवाइज़र से और बल्कि आप पैनल से कि आजकल जो कंसर्न है कम्युनिटी के अंदर कि हमारे जो बच्चे हैं वो आइंदा हमें सपोर्ट नहीं कर पाएंगे, तो क्या ये क्वेश्चन है कि हमें अपने बच्चों की एजुकेशन पर इन्वेस्ट करना चाहिए?
ओके, ठीक है, मैं आपका सवाल का भी जवाब मिलता है आपको। थैंक यू सो मच। एंड यू हर्ड द क्वेश्चन, सो डू यू थिंक दे शुड इन्वेस्ट इन चिल्ड्रन, children's education?
Ab dekhiye, it's a very good question. I would recommend the person actually go and sit down with a professional because it depends on their personal situation. These are not generic rules that everybody needs to follow. Every situation is very unique. And he brought up the idea that it's difficult for children to support parents.
Right.
And again, what they're able to do depends on their education and their drive as well. So every family is unique. So I'll sit down with clients and I'll say, okay, well, tell me about your kids and what kind of school do you want them to go to? What are they going to be doing? And if they're not the most academically inclined people, we know that there's not going to be necessarily a big reliance there or a need to invest heavily in their education. It depends on those kids, right? But in general, if I were to say something general, it's important for people to save for education. The cost of education is inflating higher than the return on investments. It's inflating more than anything that they can put money into now. So you have to deliberately save, but at the same time, you cannot sacrifice the retirement for education. That student can get a loan, but the person cannot get a loan for retirement.
Of course, definitely. And you know what? We have our number on the screen. You can always call, and then we can always get them to get more information with you. Dr. Nilfer, going back with you, you were complaining about the two different types.
Oh, I was talking about radiation therapy versus medical oncology. And I was just saying that medical oncology is primarily drug-related therapy, either by mouth or by IV. And radiation therapy is totally different. It's focused treatment with x-rays on a certain part of the body.
Right, right. And obviously cancer, nowadays a lot of people, you hear, what they just got cancer or, this is happening with them. I want to ask you a very important question, and that is, when someone is diagnosed with cancer, and I'm sure you've met a lot of people, how important it is for the family support to be there?
That's an excellent question. It's very important. I can tell you with no question at all that the patients who have strong family support, whether it's children, whether it's a spouse, whether it's parents, or even close friends many times, if you have that emotional support, those people do much better in the long run. Yeah, it's just without a doubt. So family support is very, very important. Now, sometimes what happens in our community especially is that the family sometimes doesn't want the patient to know. Or vice versa. The patient doesn't want their family to know.
Of course.
And I try very hard to encourage them to communicate with each other because it's very tough to go it alone.
Of course.
And I don't think it's really fair to the patient to not understand what's going on.
Of course. And that's again something really important where I've seen, and this is something that research has also shown, that when you have that family support, it makes a world of a difference. Another really important question for people, and I'm sure there must be someone out there that you're affected with, someone who has cancer, be it a family member or anyone. Another really, I guess, important question is when you are diagnosed with cancer, and when you know about that, and then someone finds out, got cancer. Sadly, in our community, and I'm not against my community, I'm sure this happens in other communities, but I'm more focused with our people, our backyard, before we start worrying about other people's backyards. And what they do is, isko cancer, but ab tum kya karogi? That theory, that mentality, do you think that helps a person who is diagnosed with cancer, or do you think it makes it worse, where they're like, acha to ab tum bachon ka kya karogi? Like, the minute they find out, they just think, this person's going to die.
Right.
And I know it's a very tough question, but I think it's such a simple but important question. What do you think?
Well, I think you're correct that happens a lot. I think it's not helpful, but I think, again, it's because of a lack of education and understanding. And, living in the United States especially, it is almost inevitable that all of us are going to face either a family member or a friend who is diagnosed with cancer at some point in our lifetimes. And I think the most important thing that a person can do is express support, I think it's not helpful to say, oh my goodness, what are you going to do now?
Exactly.
What's going to happen to your children?
Right.
I think the best thing people can do for anyone that has a medical diagnosis, even any kind, that where they need help, is to offer their help
Right.
and actually show up and do it. Sometimes people will say, you know, they'll call and say, oh, I heard that you're sick, or I heard you got cancer. I want to help, or what can I do? And they're wanting that person
To tell them.
Right. And rarely does that happen. That person doesn't want to be a burden on anybody, so they're not likely to tell you. You just kind of have to take action, make something for food and take
Right.
it over there,
Exactly.
or offer to pick
Exactly.
up their kids from school, or buy them groceries, or run some errands, or just go over and visit.
Right.
It's surprising how often people become very, very isolated when they're diagnosed with something,
Exactly.
because people are afraid that they're going to say the wrong thing, or that they don't know what to say. And sometimes all that person needs is your presence, your physical presence.
Right.
Or even a phone call.
A phone call, or and these things are such small things, but
Yes.
that person who is diagnosed, and again, it's not just cancer, with anything, you know, that definitely helps. And of course, आप लोग भी call कर सकते हैं. हमारा नंबर है 855-886-6387. हम break में जा रहे हैं. मैं भूल गई थी break लेने के लिए. We'll be right back after this. Don't go in.